talk to a lot of these BP and other oil executives. It's good that your caucus is meeting with the oil and gas industry for a fundraiser.
You know, what I think is really good is that Barack Obama wants oil prices to skyrocket.
Frank Luntz went into the fundraiser. Did he give you that talking point?
No, if you see, I put him on the floor of the House every day.
Okay. Any messaging advice on this BP spill?
No.
As the guru?
Yes, the first messaging advice is there were way too many people in really nice suits in one place at one time.
Shortly after the oil spill, you said that oil rigs, quote, have a very positive environmental record. Given the tragedy of the spill and, you know, in light of how bad the damage is now, do you still hold that view?
You know, I do.
So, Senator, on the very week that the United States Senate and Congress are supposedly looking at this travesty, this tragedy down in the Gulf of Mexico, and we're watching that oil pour out of that well. The very week they're supposed to be watchdogs. They're over raising money at the Republican Club, the Capitol Hill Club, getting advice from Frank Luntz about how to word their way out of it. In other words, the oil companies and the Republican Party are in bed together here, planning the way to PR their way out of this problem without having to pay for it.
Yeah, Chris, one of the things you've done very well on Hardball in the last many months is show that depending on the issue, you know who the Republican benefactor is. During the health care bill, the Republican benefactor is the insurance industry, and they pretty much set the direction and gave the talking points to Republicans. During the Wall Street reform we're doing right now, it was the banking industry. During all of this oil spill and all that's happened with BP and other companies, their benefactor's been the oil industry. I mean, you can write the talking points, you can see their behavior, and they will always cover for their friends, and that's what they did on health care. That's what they're doing now on financial reform, and that's what they're going to continue to do on this issue with the terrible, terrible environmental tragedy and the worker safety tragedy that happened. Don't forget, I mean, people aren't talking about this much, but 11 workers were killed on this oil platform. While we talk about it's the spill, that's understandable, but 11 families lost loved ones, just like 15 families and hundreds, with 100 people injured back in Texas City, Texas, when BP didn't follow worker safety rules. Then they had their biggest fine ever levied by OSHA. That was in the Bush years, and they got fined again with a real regulator in place, Secretary Solis, for not doing what they were supposed to do in the ensuing 5 years. So we know their game. It's important that the administration come down, that Congress does the right thing and says no more on this, no liability limits. You're going to pay for the cleaning up the spill, and you're going to pay those businesses that lost their businesses or lost big parts of their revenue because of this oil spill.
Well, the public seems to agree with you, Senator. Here's a new NBC Wall Street Journal poll just out. It finds that the Gulf oil spill is the top news story that concerns people, 7 points more than the Times Square bomb or more than that terrorist incident and more than the immigration fight out in Arizona. Big oil is the big target right now. It's the top corporate mess that bothers people, bigger than the mortgage mess or even Goldman Sachs. People give the federal government a little more credit than BP in handling this. So there's the question. Can you legally require the oil company here, BP, which made zillions of dollars in profits, to pay for the Coast Guard activities, to pay for the cleanup along the shore, to compensate the fishermen and the shrimp people and all the other people? Can you make them do it?
Yeah, of course we can. I mean, the problem is Senator Menendez from New Jersey, the Democrat from New Jersey, tried to do it today. The Republican senator from Alaska objected. They're going to continue to block things, continue to obstruct. We can legally do it. We pass this bill, eventually get it to the president. Then the BP has to reimburse the Coast Guard out of this last quarter, as you know, Chris, as you said, $5.6 billion in profits just the last quarter alone. BP. Exxon had bigger profits. Shell had profits almost as big. That's just one quarter. They're going to have to pay out of those profits, pay the Coast Guard back. They're going to have to pay other private companies that have done the cleanup, everybody else, you bet.
Is there any way to get to the executives who have made these decisions, these sloppy decisions about the way they drill, what looks to be shortcuts? They didn't put the drill mud down in there. They operated in a way that was fast and loose. Is there any way to make the people who made those decisions pay, not the ultimate consumer who might finally be hit at the gas pump?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. As I said, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what you do with the executives if they have civil or criminal liability, I think you absolutely pursue it. I mean, they're making decisions that these executives made decisions by their cutting corners that killed 11 men and I assume women, but 11 human beings, workers on that platform. They made decisions that have continued to ignore worker safety violations in Texas City, Texas, near Galveston. They've continued to make those decisions and simply cut corners, ignore them, forgetting that George Bush isn't president anymore and going to give them a pass on worker safety, that there's a new sheriff in town, a new administration that's going to lean on them and enforce these worker safety laws.
Have you got the president behind you on this bill? I see your co-sponsors. They're an impressive list, a lot of Northeastern guys, but do you have the president of the United States behind you on this measure to force Big Oil, BP in this case, to pay for the mess they made?
Yeah, obviously I can't speak for the president, but the White House seems engaged on this. Of course they don't believe taxpayers should pay for this. The cleanup and the liability, somebody's going to have to pay, and it sure as hell shouldn't be taxpayers. We've gone through that. It needs to be the people who made the mistakes, and that's a company right now that reported just a couple of weeks ago over $5 billion in profits just in their first quarter.
Well, you know how your parents told you when you're growing up and you get in a car accident, don't say anything to the police, don't say you're sorry, don't say anything, just don't talk? That's the way the BP are operating. They're not saying nothing. They won't tell us anything responsible for this, and they're the ones that did it. Anyway, thank you, Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio.